This Friday in the beautiful French city of Lyon, the All Blacks will take on Italy in an extremely interesting Pool A game in the 2023 Rugby World Cup. And in this video, I'm going to preview that game. Hello and welcome to Inside Rugby. My name is Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. And in this video, we're going to have a deep look into that game between the All Blacks and Italy being played in Lyon on Friday night. Now, it's going to be a really interesting game, this Pool A game, because it's bringing two teams together that have everything to lose. Been a lot of doubters out there for the All Blacks, and I'm one of them. I don't think this team is good enough to win this year's Rugby World Cup. I hope I'm proven wrong, of course, as an All Black fan, but I think there's some fundamental things that are going wrong with this All Blacks team, and perhaps Italy will bring that out on Friday night. But I'm very impressed by Italy, and one of the reasons is their head coach, Kieran Crowley, comes from a place called Taranaki in New Zealand, is where I'm from, and in fact his family only lives a few kilometres away from where my family lives in New Zealand. But Kieran Crowley, I think, has done a really wonderful job with Italy, and he's got them on a nice trajectory in this year's Rugby World Cup. It's a big shame that he's lost his job and he's going to be moving on after this year's tournament. So before we get into the teams for this game and I talk a little bit about what I think's going to happen, let's have a look at Pool A as it stands currently. And here we go. We've got France, of course, leading Pool A at the moment, followed by Italy, and then New Zealand, Uruguay and Namibia. So it's a must-win game for the All Blacks and a lot of pressure on them, of course. And it's one thing they're not been dealing too well with throughout this Rugby World Cup, and even before it started, was the pressure that they're getting put under as a team, both on and off the field. So we're going to be interesting to see how that translates in this game on Friday night. Now, Italy so far in the tournament have had two what some people would call a little bit easier games against Uruguay and Namibia, but they still had to do the job, and they did the job quite convincingly against both of those teams. And talking about the All Blacks, of course, they lost that first game against France 27-13 in Paris, the first game in this year's Rugby World Cup. And then in the second game, they put away Namibia by 71 points to 3, a comprehensive victory there for the All Blacks. But the All Blacks have had 30 points scored against them in this year's Rugby World Cup compared to Italy's 25. So you could say the Italian defence is working a little bit better. But it's all to play for on Friday night, and we've seen the two teams announced now, and there's some very interesting selections going on here. And I think the All Blacks have gone with probably the close to their best team with getting some of their players back on. But before we get to the All Blacks, I want to talk about Italy and have a look at their team and what I think their chances are in this game. Now, let's start off with Italy and have a look at their forwards, as we always should start in the forwards, as someone reminded me on one of the comments recently. And let's have a look at their front row. And their front row is Fischetti, Nicotera and Recchioni. So they have a really good front row. These boys have been playing well so far in the tournament. And I think the scrummaging and set play is going to be something that Italy bring to this game that surprises the All Blacks a little bit. And we've really seen Italy improve both over the Six Nations games and also leading into this year's Rugby World Cup. So I think that front row is a really good front row for Italy, and expect them to take the All Blacks on up front early in this game. In the locks, they have Ruza and Lamb, two big boys, and expect them to go hard at line-out time and try and win some good, clean ball here for Italy. This might be an area where Italy struggles, and it's going to be up to Ruza and Lamb to really try and win some dominant ball for the Italians. But the other good thing that these two guys are good at is their breakdown play, and you can expect to see these Italians getting in and doing a lot of work at breakdown. I think the Italians have been doing very well in that area across this World Cup so far, and not just by the back three of the Italians. They've been getting help from the locks and also from the rest of the team. I've been impressed how Italy as a team have been clearing ball out for the breakdown. So look for those props to be prominent, and they're going to have to do a good job against the All Blacks locks in the line out. And then looking at the Italian back three, we've got Nigeri as a flanker, Lamare, who's of course their captain, and Kanoni at number 8. So good back three, and again, expect them to be dynamic at the breakdown and trying to disrupt the All Blacks attack in their set pieces. So when the All Blacks get a scrum, expect the back three of the Italians to be putting their inside backs under a lot of pressure. I like their defensive structures that they're coming to this World Cup with Italy, and they're going to be no pushover when it comes to their defence in this particular game. So a really good group of forwards there for Italy. And then let's have a look at the reserve forwards for the Italians for this match against the All Blacks, and they include Faiva, Nima, Ferrari, Kanoni and Zuhani. So a good bench there to come on, and this is going to be really critical in this game, how the Italian bench performs, because we all know the last 20 minutes of all these games have been very paramount in terms of the outcome of the game. So Kieran Crowley and his coaching crew are going to want to make sure that this bench is used strategically against the All Blacks, and they come on and really make a difference in this game, particularly if the Italians are chasing this game late on. They're going to want to see a lot of emphasis from. Okay, starting off in their halves, and they've got Varney at halfback and Garbisi at first 5 at fly half and number 10. Garbisi's left-footed, so that brings a unique situation as well. He can kick off his left foot, getting a lot of distance, and also setting up the defensive structure for the All Blacks are going to have to watch out for that, having a left footer in at number 10. So Garbisi and Varney in the halves for Italy in this game. Expect Varney also to be darting from number 9 and doing some runs against the All Blacks. Expect some box kicking from him as well. They want to put the All Blacks back three under pressure if they can, and I think this is going to be an exciting prospect from the Italians from these two players. Okay, looking at the centre pairing, we have Moresi and Brax in the centre for Italy, and these guys both on defence and offence are going to be really good for Italy. Are they going to be able to keep the All Black backs out? It's going to be really interesting to see how they pair up. But Moresi's played really well in the games I've watched so far, and expect him to have a presence in there in the Italian backline. And the good thing about this Italian backline is they've got some really good attacking structures, and that's one thing that Kieran Crowley, as a back himself, he used to play fullback of course for the All Blacks, has brought to this Italian team since he's been their head coach. So expect these centres to really have a go at the All Blacks. And then looking at the Italian back three in the backs is really exciting for me. They've got Ioane, a familiar name to Pacific Island and New Zealanders of course, Capuzzo on the other wing, and at the back they've got Tommaso Allen, and Tommaso Allen's been playing fantastically well so far in this year's Rugby World Cup. In fact, he's had 13 goal attempts at goal in this year's Rugby World Cup, and he hasn't missed one. 100% kicking record for Tommaso Allen, so expect him to be able to keep the scoreboard ticking over for Italy if they get the chance to do so. And Capuzzo of course on the wing, very dynamic player, very good player, and expect these three in the back three for Italy to really cause the All Blacks some headaches. I can see the Italians really getting some territory through these back three, and it's going to be exciting. So looking at the back reserves for Italy in this game, Halafi, who's also from Taranaki in New Zealand, Page Relo and Odogu, who are also very good. So I think the Italians have got some punch to come in there off the bench for their back line. And again, it's going to be important when Kieran Crowley uses these, if they're not used for injury replacements throughout the game, because I expect Italy to be chasing this game in the second half, and it's going to be interesting to see how these backs are used. So a really good team from Italy. I think Kieran Crowley's pretty happy with the team that he's got put out here, and I think they're going to cause the All Blacks some problems. But before I start talking about how they're going to do that, let's have a look at the All Blacks team for this game. So a couple of big things happening in this game for the All Blacks. They're getting a couple of players back from injury, which is a big thing for them. And they're also celebrating, or they will be celebrating, Sam Whitelock's 149th cap for the New Zealand All Blacks. 21 games in the Rugby World Cup, which is also a record for New Zealand. And in his next match, he'll go to 150. So of course, Richie McCaw was on 148 when he ended his career, and Sam Whitelock, who's been an absolute stalwart for the New Zealand All Blacks over the years, and what a fantastic player. And I was just trying to remember today actually when he was not playing for the All Blacks, because he hasn't had much time out with injury. He's always been almost available all the time for selection, and he's been just one of these amazing players that just goes on and does his job for the team. Whitelock's going to be starting off the bench in this game, but let's have a look at the forwards first of all for the All Blacks that are going to be starting this game. And in the front row we've got Tuanga Fesi, we've got Cody Taylor and Neo Lalala. And I think this is pretty good considering the All Blacks injury list at the moment, and they're going to have to go with the players that are going to give them the emphasis in going forwards. Cody Taylor, I think, is the best hooker in the New Zealand All Blacks team at the moment, and Lalala has a little bit to prove as far as I'm concerned. We've got Tyrell Lomax on the bench in this game for the All Blacks, so Lalala's going to have to put up and show what he's got in that front row. But I expect the All Blacks to take it to Italy in the front row and try and create some dominance in the scrums early on in this game. So in the locks for the All Blacks, we have Brodie Retallick, who of course is still on his way back from injury. He got 50 odd minutes in that first game against France. He got to play some time against Namibia, but I'm sure Ian Foster and crew will be wanting him to get back to his best, and I think starting him in this game is a good move. Then Scott Barrett, who before the red card incident was playing very, very well. Let's hope he can regain his form and keep his discipline in check. That's going to be a big thing for the All Blacks in this game, of course. And I think the All Blacks have got a very, very good pair of locks in this game. And how many teams in the world could have Sam Whitelock coming off the bench as a locking position? So that's pretty strong for the All Blacks. And then in the back row, we've got the return of Shannon Frizzell, and that's going to be good news to a lot of All Black supporters. Frizzell was playing really good rugby in the Rugby Championship and heading into this Rugby World Cup. Unfortunately got injured, and now he's returning to the team. And on the other side, Dalton Papali'i, who's covering for Sam Cane at the moment, although Cane is on the bench in this game. And Papali'i needs to watch his discipline in this game, giving away a couple of penalties that cost the All Blacks in recent games. And then at the back, and captain of the All Blacks for this game, is Ardie Savea. And not much needs to be said about Ardie. He always brings his A game for the All Blacks, and he'll be looking for a big performance both as captain and leader, but also as number 8 in this game for the All Blacks. So look for the All Blacks to try and dominate at the breakdowns. It's going to be an area that they specifically target against this Italian team, because the All Blacks will want to use the ball in their backs, and the only way they're going to do that is by controlling the breakdowns and the set pieces. Now some interesting calls on the All Blacks reserves for the forwards, and let's have a look at those now. Dane Coles comes in. He's been playing well, and he's a good leader, of course, and I think Ian Foster's put him in this team to give him that ability to come on and calm the All Blacks down if they need it, if they're under pressure. He's one of the leaders that the All Blacks go to for that. Then we have Tamati Williams, the big young guy that's coming in, getting a lot of experience now at this level, which is good. Tyrell Lomax is back in there, which is good, and this is going to consolidate the All Blacks. He's going to need a run after being out for a little bit, and really, really good player, Tyrell Lomax, so expect him to do good things when he comes on. And then, of course, Sam Whitelock, 149 caps for the All Blacks in this game. Sam Cane's the last forward reserve for the All Blacks in this game, coming back from that back injury, and going to be interesting to see how he goes. And everybody's saying that it's a good thing to have Sam Cane coming off the bench and giving his leadership skills to the All Blacks if there is any pressure going on for the All Blacks later on in this game. So a pretty hardy bench there from the forwards for the All Blacks, and I think for one they'll probably do the job over Italy in this game. Now the All Blacks back line, and we'll start off in the halves, and we've got Aaron Smith at halfback, and at number 10 Richie Mo'unga, and I guess it's fair to say that these two have consolidated their position in the All Blacks top team at these positions, although I think Cam Roigard is playing very, very good at halfback, and he is in the reserves today for the All Blacks. So Smith and Mo'unga will start at 9 and 10 for the All Blacks. And then back into the team today is Friday will be Geordie Barrett coming back in at number 12 to partner his old mate Rieko Ioane. And Ioane and Barrett have really been showing a good combination at 12 and 13 for the All Blacks. And Ioane was saying at the press conference that their training this week has been going really, really well, and Barrett's just slotted back into the team. So it'll be interesting to see that Barrett is fully over the injury and starts to bring his top game for the All Blacks, which they're going to need against this Italy team. These two guys are really good on defence as well, so expect a big defensive effort from these two, and they'll be trying to make sure that Ioane and Capruzzo for Italy are not getting through the All Blacks defensive line. That's going to be a big part of this game. And then on the wings for the All Blacks, we've got Mark Talia and Will Jordan. And Jordan hasn't really impressed me too much in this Rugby World Cup. We know what he's capable of. I guess we just haven't seen him at his absolute brilliance. Let's hope we see it against Italy, because he can be devastating when he gets into open play, is Will Jordan. Mark Talia, I like this selection, even though I do like Lester Fainganuku, but I think Mark Talia is playing well. He's good under the high ball, and he's good at sorting out opportunities for the All Black backline. Expect to see Talia come in quite a lot off Aaron Smith at set piece and take the ball into that first and second phase play for the All Blacks. And then at fullback we've got Beauden Barrett, and I want to see him getting more injected into this game. I think he's been a little bit off in this Rugby World Cup, so him coming into form as we get closer to the knockout stage is going to be really, really important for the All Blacks. And then on the bench, we've got Cam Roigard, Damien McKenzie and Anton Leonard-Brown. So very solid bench for the All Blacks. And I think Damien McKenzie has played his way back into this team on the bench, given his game against Namibia for the All Blacks. And a good selection. I think he can add a little bit something different when he comes on. And as I said, I really like Cam Roigard. So he's been playing good rugby, and I think he's only going to grow in stature as he gets more and more experience, both at this World Cup and in the years to come. So a very good team from the All Blacks, pretty close I think to their #1 team, and I think Ian Foster and Jason Ryan along with Joe Schmidt are looking to give these guys now some real pressure and some real opportunity to make some of the connections going before they get to the knockout stage. Now I'm saying before they get to the knockout stage, they've of course got to win this game and beat Italy to make sure that they get through. And this has not going to be any pushover. I think this is a really good Italian team. They've done the job in their first 2 games. They've been playing some very good, expansive rugby. And it's not the Italy that we used to see a couple of years ago in the Six Nations. No, this is a much improved Italian team. And I expect them to really take it to the All Blacks. And I think the All Blacks are going to have to be careful around their defensive structures, because the Italians are going to play a very open game and they're going to keep the All Blacks guessing. This Italian team was leading France last year at half-time in their game, and they stuck in that game until the very end. And that's another thing that this Italian team will do. They will be there for the 80 minutes, and the All Blacks are going to have to be on their mettle for the whole 80 minutes of this game. So I think it's going to be a really interesting encounter. Where the Italians can put some problems for the All Blacks in this game is quite simply around some really good kicking, using Garbisi and Tommaso Allen, and making sure they're getting good territory gains downfield using left and right foot, as I explained, but also putting some chips over the All Blacks defence. And I expect that to be a play that the Italians try to do, because they're very quick and they're very fleet off foot. And I think if they do get in behind the All Blacks, they're going to give themselves a 50-50 chance to getting that ball and disrupting the All Blacks. So where could Italy struggle in this game? Well, I think they could struggle in the forwards, because the All Blacks with their solid bench are going to go for 80 minutes in this game. And if the All Blacks get some dominance through their forwards, then their backs are going to see a lot of ball. So the Italians are going to have to really focus on their forward play in this game and making sure they take it to the All Blacks early. But also the Italian bench is going to be critical in this game from the forwards to make sure that they can do the job. So expect this an area where the All Blacks are going to try and dominate using their forward play. And also for the 80 minutes, that bench from the All Blacks is going to be really critical. So when Williams and Cole and the others come on, Sam Whitelock, the All Blacks are still going to be going at it in set piece and line out ball. So that's something that Italy are going to have to combat in this particular game if they're going to have any chance, I think. The All Blacks are going to have to watch their discipline, and it's let them down in a number of games recently, and I'm sure that Ian Foster and crew have been really focusing on this and drilling it into the guys since they've had their bye round off last weekend. That discipline is going to be key in this game. The All Blacks can't afford to go down to 14 men or even 13 men in this particular game, and same goes with Italy. They can't afford to lose a man in this game, so expect discipline to be at the forefront of both teams for the game. Set piece is going to be important, and expect the All Blacks to try and put some dominance over Italy in the first 20 minutes of this game. I wouldn't be surprised if we see an All Black team like we saw at Mount Smart Stadium against the Springboks in the first 20 minutes of this game. I think they'll come out and they'll throw absolutely everything plus the kitchen sink at Italy in this 20 minutes to try and ruffle their feathers. And I think that will be the strategy that the All Blacks come with. They'll be playing at pace. they'll be playing at power and they'll be getting it out to their backs to run at this Italian defence to see what they're made of. So based on that opinion, I think it's going to be really critical for the Italians to hold their defence together for that first 20 minutes of the game, to make sure they're still in this game and they haven't lost it within that first 20 minutes. So I'm sure Kieran Crowley's going to be making sure that the defensive structure and patterns are very sound for the Italians, and to make sure that they're very focused right from the kickoff, because in that very first minute the All Blacks are going to be going for it. So Italy's got to watch out. I think if they've survived the storm after the first 20 minutes, then we could have a close encounter. I think Italy has the ability to score tries from anywhere on the field. But if the All Blacks bring their A game, and they bring their A game with structure, offense, defense and discipline, I think they can take this one comfortably from Italy. But they're going to have to put all those things together. And if I see the Italy that I've been watching in the World Cup so far, if they can bring that disruptive element, keep New Zealand guessing when it comes to their offensive patterns, then I think we're in for a very interesting game. A lot of you that have been watching my videos have been expecting an All Blacks bounce back. Well, this is the game they have to put it together, because they're going to have big problems if they don't win this one. So let's see what happens. I think Italy can rattle the cage here a little bit. I don't think they can win, but I'm not going to write them off, and I think that the All Blacks have to make sure that they play their A game to beat Italy. I don't think it's a case of making a statement in this game. I think a good solid win is what the All Blacks need to do. And like a lot of other teams that we've seen who are playing at that top echelon of this year's Rugby World Cup, they need to keep building their way into this tournament. I think the days of the All Blacks beating Italy by 50 odd points are gone. I think we're going to have a closer game with that, and I think it's all going to hinge on that first 20 minutes of this game. And if the All Blacks can come out and put the speed, pace and also the accuracy together, I think that's going to be another key component. So they're not dropping passes, they're not knocking on, they're finding their man, and they can actually put some points on the board in that first 20 minutes, then we'll see the All Blacks that everybody's talking about. If we don't see that, then we might see the All Blacks under a little bit of pressure, and if Italy get a couple of quick scores on their own side, then things could be very, very different. So it's going to be a really interesting game. I'm really looking forward to it. And I also want to give Kieran Crowley and his crew, regardless of which way this game goes, a lot of kudos for the way that Italy's been playing at this World Cup, and also the way they've been managing themselves. I think it's a very, very professional outfit that's going on there in the Italian team. So let me know in the comments what you think about this game between the All Blacks and Italy, being played on Friday in Lyon. And we've got Matthew Carley as the referee in this game. So let me know what you think is going to happen. Do you agree with some of my comments about how the All Blacks could win this game? What do you think of the selections of the two teams? And are there any players there missing that you would expect to see in either team? I look forward to reading all your comments. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you very much for following me here on Inside Rugby. As I said, my name's Mark, based here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. If you want to, hit that little subscribe button, follow along, give us a thumbs up for the video, and I'll be back again with more videos about this year's Rugby World Cup. Until then, stay well, stay safe, and keep enjoying this amazing World Cup from France. See you again soon. Bye for now.